Welcome, everybody, to Hearts and Stars podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Babika, CEO of the Little Lighthouse Foundation, with the incomparable co-host, Missy Babika.
Hello. Happy to be here. We're very bubbly in here today.
As always. And our guest today, Miss Jenise Fernandez.
Yay!
One of my favorite humans
Oh my
on
gosh,
this
thank
planet.
you. You guys are my favorite humans.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And you know what, of course, what makes this super duper special is that you are the host of the Hearts and Stars Gala.
It's going to be year 3 as host.
It's going to be year 3, Carnaval do Brasil, March 15th, 2025.
Already thinking about my outfit.
Yeah.
We're already, she gets it. She's like, we're thinking about our outfits already.
Lots of feathers, blue, greens, yellows.
I'm thinking big colors, big.
Big. So, first of all, how comfortable are you right now in this setting right now? 6-time Emmy Award-winning anchor.
Yay.
I mean, there's cameras, there's microphones and stuff. You're just like, you haven't even given a second thought.
No. It's like at this point, it's been a lot of years. I've been in the business for almost 15 years. So it's just kind of second nature at this point.
Yeah.
This is like my life all the time.
So what I think is going to be the most exciting thing for you, because we haven't ever, I mean, you're so busy. We're all so busy. You're covering hurricanes. You're, you're becoming a TikTok star, all these incredible things,
Apparently.
which we'll get to those two awesome things. But what we do here is what I'm going to like extract all. Okay. Yes. We're into this already. I want to extract like all of like the next steps for these kids to take these actionable next steps to see their pathway to success. So kind of like access to success. We want to hear your story. So keep that in mind because we call it drop a gem on them.
Got it. Love dropping gems.
There you go. Exactly. But before we get into it, I just want to, let's talk about Hearts and Stars Gala. Because number one, we are so incredibly grateful for you to host.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, what a great partnership, right?
I mean, I love it. So thank you for having me coming back because it's the best.
Yeah. I mean, if it's okay, this is going to be a staple.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right?
I'm in it for life.
Can we just say it right here? Yeah, just every year we want to count on you.
In it for life. Love it.
You make us look so good.
Yeah.
Tell us like...
You guys make it easy though, honestly. Like the whole setup is so fantastic and I've hosted many events and it's always so seamlessly done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously amazing. It's so much fun and it's sexy, but it has like such positive vibes, but it's so seamless. I mean, and like everybody there is like awesome. Got Charlie backstage. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Hats off to Charlie Venturi, co-founder of Little Lighthouse and chief executive event producer on the scene. So what would you say to somebody that has never experienced Hearts and Stars Gala?
Oh my gosh. Well, the first thing I would say is, first of all, if you want to go to the best party in town, let's start with that.
Beautiful.
But what makes it even better is you're actually doing good work here. Like we're supporting an incredible organization, so you're going to get everything you want, right? Because sometimes we go to these parties and they're a good time, but this actually has a purpose. So it's like a party with a purpose, and it's going to be the best night. You're going to have incredible food, incredible drinks, music, and that's another thing too. We always have a surprise guest who comes.
Yes.
You never know who it is, but it's just such a good vibe, and it's exactly what you would expect a Miami charity event to be like. Like this is the staple of what it should be.
Yeah.
Because it works for us in this city, right? Like the way we are, our style, our vibes, it's like perfect.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so good.
I say it's like, as you said, the epitome of like Miami's hottest fundraiser.
It is.
I mean, like it's Miami's finest. It's philanthropy. It's all for a good cause. And like the energy, as
It's
you said,
there.
the vibe, right? Like it's inexplicable. That's what I say. Like you can watch the video, you can hear it from friends, but unless you experience it firsthand.
Yeah, and just be prepared because you will have a late night in a good way. Like it's one of those nights that you're like calling that Uber and it's like 1 or something in the morning, but you're like feeling so good. You're like, oh, that was great. And you always meet really cool people. And I've been doing it for like it's my 3rd year, and I always meet somebody who I haven't met before that has their own kind of story with Little Lighthouse,
Yeah.
or maybe it's their first time there. So I
Right.
mean, it's a friendly crowd. I think that's important to say too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go to these places and it's a little stuffy, but everybody's just really happy.
Yeah.
And so you're just having great conversations conversations with people from different walks of life and learning about them. So it's great. It really is.
I feel like you're always in good company.
Oh,
and when I say drop a gem on them, it's from actually Mobb Deep. It's a rap group that I love. It's a duo.
That's what really like Liz hip hop, right?
So when I say like you roll Mobb Deep, like I always appreciate the company like that you upkeep, you know?
Let's talk about that. Your girl gang.
Right?
You have such a great girl gang, and they are also news anchors.
Yes.
So tell us how this impacts your career.
It's amazing because I have a lot of different girlfriends, you know, in this business or in some kind of adjacent to this business. And there's one group I have, and we have a group chat. We call ourselves the Spice Girls. And that specific group is so special. And we know some of them. Kelly Blanco, she's been like a great supporter of Little Lighthouse.
We love her.
Joy
Kelly.
Taylor, who came last
Joy,
year. Hopefully we can get her to come
amazing.
down again. And it's such a great group because it's been going strong for 10 years, like in terms of just like the group itself. And what's so good about it is having people who understand the industry, especially from a female perspective too. And we're all pretty much in the same age group too. And we're all doing different sort of things in the industry. Like I'm in news. We have like Kelly kind of does more entertainment. Joy and MJ are doing like more, you know, sports. But it's so great because it is a tough business. And so having that support group is just essential. Because we could literally like, we kind of joke, we're like, put it in the chat, honey. Tell us what you're feeling today. Like we're here for you. We're going to support you. And just lay it out there. Like even if you just need a good vent session, we got you. Or even just the uplifting. So if one of the girls posts something on Instagram, you know, she'll send and say, can you girls share this? And we're like, yeah, we can share this. And we're just sharing it and spreading the love and showing that support.
Right.
And even just like someone posts a picture, I'm like, you're the best. It's just those little things that we just really just kind of like, we always joke, we're so like codependent with each other because we're all so like obsessed in the best way possible though.
I love that, like on the micro level. Like, give me a like, show me some love. It goes a long way.
It does, yeah.
You know, I personally just am in awe of like this girl gang, as Missy says. Like, it's so incredibly, it's empowering even for me just to see like this group of women who are just such professionals at the top of their game, you know, building each other up. Right? Like that's just, and we should do a TV show. And we discussed it might not be possible because it's just too good quality TV.
It won't be drama.
It's too uplifting, no drama.
Not as serious as the morning show.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that is great show though. But yeah. But you know, I think it's so important, and this could be a little gem, right? You have to find your tribe. You have to find the people, and it's not even just about people in your same career, but people who just think the way you think, feel the way you feel, and kind of share like the same morals and values. Like that's really the core of the relationship, you know? And I think that's so important. And I am such a proponent of female friendships. Oh my gosh, female friendships are everything. Like the relationship you have with a man, of course, is wonderful in its own way and its separate way, but like female relationships, and when you look back at like history and you think about when women did live in tribes, right? Like the men would kind of go hunt and the women would raise their kids, but together, or the villages, they would raise it together. So I think it's a natural camaraderie for us women to really want to bond with each other. And it's like, again, we love the men, but like the female connection is like, you could just never break it. It's so strong.
Yeah.
Very
and I commend you on the bonding. Missy is like,
yeah, she gets
the
it.
queen of bonding.
I mean, yes, ladies of Little Lighthouse, like it's true though. It's so true though. Like that, it's so special. It really is, and I think we need to see more of it because I do think that, you know, we were kind of talking about reality shows, and they do show a lot of women kind of against each other and the drama, and of course, like things happen. But I personally think it's just not a true representation of what it really is. Like I think more than not, women are really supportive of each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And speaking of the history, as you said, like, you know, historically women have been there for each other. Your history, you know, I want to go back to kind of like your career, and let's build this pathway.
Let's do it.
In my head, I'm like, what are we doing on this podcast? You know, with like all intents and purposes, let's build this pathway to success with Jenise, because I want these kids, and I've heard some glimpses and I'm so excited to hear everything, but I want like these kids or anybody tuning in to get some actionable next steps. Like I can't say that enough, you know, like let's drop some gems. Let's give them like, you know, this is what I'm going to do after I hear this podcast type deal. So historically speaking, well, number one, I want to know, have you always been like a girl who wants to be with girls, like
Oh, yeah.
friends and everything.
Yeah, and that really started from a young age because I was a ballerina growing up. So I was in dance classes, and of course the majority are women. So it was very easy to just connect with people. And that also helps too, like when you have a hobby or a passion, whether it's dance or sports or even like art or anything like that, you're gonna meet like-minded people, right? Because
Yeah.
you're doing something you love. They love it too. So that's like a really good way to build those friendships and build those tribes and support systems.
Yeah.
But I think, I've definitely been a girly girl in that sense that I was a ballerina. And if we go all the way through, college, I was in a sorority. So just like having that support of women has always been there. And I also have, I have to give a shout out because my mom is the best. And she's just, the epitome of what I think a mom should be. So she also just always instilled, not just with me, but my sister.
What's her name?
Rita Fernandez.
And
Yes,
your sister's
she
name
is. Yeah, and my sister's Jacqueline.
Rita and Jacqueline
Yeah.
Fernandez. Shout out.
Shout out to them.
Boom.
But my mom was always just very proud of us girls because she always said, I'm so proud with how I raised you for like a multitude of reasons, but the one thing I love is that I always taught with kindness and I never raised like mean girls. She was always really big on that. Like if there was a conflict with friends, she definitely was the mom who's like there for you and passionate, but she's also very much like a kill them with kindness then.
Yes.
Give that smile. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. You could just do your own thing. And like really simple things, right? Like if you were really into something that other kids weren't into, she's like, who cares? That's what you're into. And you just smile if like even handling bullying, which I think we all have experienced. And I can't say I experienced it like, oh my gosh, to a level that was so traumatic, but little teasing and stuff. Like one thing I remember growing up, I got made fun of a lot for being tall in a way that kids just are. Like I wouldn't say it's anything serious, but I was always really tall and I was always taller than like everybody in the class and like the kids would always kind of just like tease me a little bit. And then one day I was telling my mom and I was like crying about it. I was like, I just wish I was like shorter and that I could wear heels to the dance like the girls and all that. And she goes, the next time one of these girls tells you that, you're tall and that's like bad, just smile at them and say, all the supermodels have to be tall, so I guess I'm in good company. And like I literally used that once and it just worked.
Wow.
Like something so simple that wasn't like necessarily mean, but you're just like, well, they're all tall, so I guess I'm in good company.
Right.
I love
Great.
her.
Yeah, she's
Like,
Rita
take
is
the higher
everything.
road.
Yeah.
Now, did Rita treat you, teach you to, like, I feel like she's teaching you not to be reactive, which is something I'm constantly working on. And Missy tries to instill. Okay, it's still a work in
Listen, I'm a
progress.
Scorpio, so I'm like,
When is your birthday?
November 7th, it's coming up.
Boom,
Oh,
we gotta
wow.
celebrate.
Got a big
Yeah.
birthday
You're,
coming.
our little man Prentice, November 20th. You're Scorpio.
Oh, he's
twin.
not. That's why I love him for many reasons. But he's like my Scorpio buddy. He knows.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
So you were little, you were in your sorority. What did you want to be when you were little? Did you?
This is a great
How did
path.
How did this progression take place?
I was one of those kids, I knew when I was 12 years old that I wanted to do this. And it's actually like a really cool story. So, my family came from Cuba. So I'm first generation born here in Miami, in the United States. And it's very common for immigrant families, they kind of see their children in like, I hate to say boxes, but for them, careers are very kind of linear, right? Lawyer, doctor, teacher, engineer, like very like, exactly what you got to do, exactly the schooling you have to do, and there's like a direct path there. And so ever since I was little, my parents pushed to go to law school. They're like, you'd be a great lawyer because you talk and debate. And, I really thought that was going to be my path. And I remember being 12 years old and it was career day. And the lawyer comes in and starts talking about their career. And I think at that moment I had like this existential crisis in the middle of class, like, I can't do this. This is not what I want to do. So I'm here thinking, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Which is kind of weird to think at 12, but I'm here having like this whole panic of, I don't want to be a lawyer, so what am I going to do? And then finally, this reporter came in from the Miami Herald, and she just like opens up the newspaper and she reads the headline. And then she says, I'm going to tell you how I got to that headline because it was my story. And when she started talking about her day, what she does, and how it all comes together, I went home that day and I said, Mom, Dad, I'm going to be a reporter. And then they're like, no, you're going to be a lawyer. And of course, they've always been super supportive. Like at first, it wasn't even that they didn't want me to do it. They just didn't understand what that meant. But I just knew from that moment, like this is what I was going to do. So,
And you were how old?
12.
Wow.
I just knew. And you know what? And what was so great is that I've always loved writing. I've always loved reading. Like history and English were like subjects that I loved in school. And all of that really kind of flows into this career. And I just was like, this is what I want to do. And advice that my dad gave me. So funny enough, he shouldn't be surprised that I picked this path, because also we were that kind of family that would wake up in the mornings and we'd be watching Good Morning America. Like I wasn't watching cartoons. I was very much a nerdy news kid.
Yeah.
And that has to do with the fact that since my parents kind of came from a place where they didn't have access to being able to watch like that free speech and that, you know, news that's not just state run, my parents have always been really into being informed.
Yeah.
So I remember my dad said to me once, she's like, you know what, you got to pick a career you love, because you will spend more time doing it than you even will with your friends and family. So pick something that you really love and that you're gonna be smiling every day when you walk into work. And that really stuck with me. And so, you know, that's when I decided, I know what's gonna make me smile every day, and it's gonna be this. And so, you know, a couple transitions. So I thought I wanted to be a newspaper writer, and then it was in college that the professor said, I think you should think about doing this on TV. And actually—
And why do you think he said that?
For a couple of reasons. His big thing was he felt the newspaper industry was definitely dwindling at that moment.
Good foresight.
And then he also was like, "Girl, you're like a really good speaker, and you look good on camera. Like, hello, let's get you there."
She didn't say that. He didn't say that you're gorgeous. I guess that's not appropriate, but I mean.
But in like the right way. He was like, "You're such a great speaker. You have a presence. Like, go try it." And funny enough, my response to him was, "Oh, but they're just pretty faces. They don't know what they're doing." And he kind of laughed. He goes, "Do me a favor. Go do an internship. And if you still feel that way, then like, great." Like, he was a former New York Times reporter. He's like, "I'll help you get where you want to get, but like, just do the internship first and tell me what you think." Funny enough, I got an internship at Channel 10, which is where I work now. Literally after my first day, I remember going back to class and saying to him, Professor Reisner, I have to give him a shout out because he was definitely one of those teachers that like changed your course in a good way.
Great.
And I went up to him and I said, 100% I want to do this. This is great. Just seeing it all come together and the creativity involved. And, you know, news is a team sport because you work with your photographer, you're working with producers, so everything really comes together. And I love like being able to work with other people. And I was like, this is it. Like, I'm doing this. This is my life path now. Like, sticking with news, but we're gonna do it on TV. And yeah, and then right after college, I got a call from the ABC in Lafayette, Louisiana. First job. Yeah,
Wow.
in the swamps of Louisiana.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Was that a culture shock or
It was
what?
a huge culture shock in a really positive way. Like, I remember when I first visited the town, you'll appreciate this. We drove by the mall, and I remember I started having like a panic attack, and I go, "Mom, they don't even have a Bloomingdale's. Like, what is this town? Like, I don't understand. Like, this is like all run down, and I don't know any of these restaurants, and like, what is this?" And then, you know, I met the news director at the station, and she was wonderful. And she just sat me down. She goes, "Listen, I know you're a Miami girl, and I know your goal is to get back to Miami. I'm not expecting you to stay here, but I'm going to teach you everything I know, and I see something special." Yeah.
Wow.
And she was wonderful. So I ended up being there for 2 years, and honestly, best 2 years. I always say I was born and raised in Miami, but I grew up in those 2 years. You know, like real adult.
Yeah.
And you're really learning. And if you've never been to Louisiana, this is my PSA, you need to go, because the nicest people in the world, nicest people in the world live there.
That's a culture shock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huge. Huge.
You know, so they're just like kind-hearted, like hospitable,
Oh my
like
gosh.
people, and you're like, oh, okay.
You're like, oh my
These
gosh, like
people
it was the
exist.
kind of town where you could actually leave your door unlocked. Right?
Yeah.
Or your neighbors would watch your place if you were out of town. Like, just really that, like, really warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
I mean, wonderful people, though. I always will cherish those 2 years.
Yeah.
They're really special.
That's great.
When you were you went to school with like there are a lot of Cuban Americans, predominantly
Oh
Cuban
my gosh.
Americans, right?
Yes.
You stood out because you were a little bit taller,
Yes.
and but like what else was it? Because well, number one, at 12, like what did you do to kind of navigate your passion? Because you knew who you wanted to be.
Yeah. So I started doing, you know, what I could in that moment to, I guess, flex that muscle and start to learn that talent. So I did a lot of speech, you know, speech competitions to just like get comfortable with public speaking. And I went to a Catholic school, so there was a lot, obviously we'd have mass every week. So if there was ever an opportunity to read, you know, they always have the readers.
Yeah.
So I was always one of the readers. Like, I always wanted those opportunities to just be able to like speak in front of an audience and a crowd. We did have like a morning announcements, so I joined that. And then also in high school, I did the same, very similar. I also joined yearbook, where I got to really like write and do all of those things. So I kind of just made sure, and I was also still dancing, by the way. So that was another passion of mine, but like I was just very sure to like do the things that I knew would help me in the career that I wanted to do. Yeah. And it's something as simple as joining clubs at your own school, which is great, right? You don't, I mean, it's already there for you. You get to join these clubs and learn. And you know, sometimes you may find, hey, I actually don't like this. I want to try something else. But that's what it's there for, right? You're kind of figuring it out. And I know it's like very unusual to be 12 and like know what I want to do, but I was just like, I'm very in my convictions. Like I was just like, I know this. This is, it's weird because I do believe we all have a purpose, right? And your purpose could be your job, but it could be something else. Like I truly believe, like we talked about my mom, her purpose was to be a mom because she's just so brilliant at it that I'm like, this was her purpose in life. And I just truly, truly believed that there was some kind of, like, call it divine calling, but I just really felt this is what I was meant to do. And I always tell, you know, young kids who are thinking about getting to this business, I'm just like, you know, work hard, but like, make sure that you love it and make sure you're passionate. And the biggest thing is you have to just like be hungry, stay hungry. Don't ever get complacent. Like stay hungry for what it is that you want. Even if everybody around you is looking at you like you're a fool, that doesn't matter. Let them think that. I love proving people wrong. That's like my favorite thing. So like let them like show them, hey, this is like what I'm gonna do and this is what I'm gonna be, and you know, keep proving them wrong.
I mean, you must have had many challenges.
Oh yeah.
You know, just being a woman, right?
Oh.
In the industry.
100%. Yeah. And I got super lucky because I have had incredible bosses, but I have heard plenty of stories from friends of mine who have had like real kind of disturbing things happen to them. I was very, very, very lucky. But also as a woman, it's an interesting business because how often do you look at the news and you see a man who's kind of like older, has gray hair, and you're thinking, he's so credible. He knows what he's talking about. And the minute there's a woman who's like that, they're like, oh, go retire. You're so old. Why are you still on television? And it's like that kind of mindset that just as a society we have. I think we've come a long way, but we still got work to do.
It's true. And 100%. I mean, honestly, when you were younger and you were navigating, you said, I just don't want to be another pretty face.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I think you are taking it to the next level because also just being on this podcast, you know, I know, but behind the scenes, you're a team player. You're reporting the news. You're researching. You're going through all these things, which I think is great. As you said, like the clubs at the schools are super important. And like there's something to be said about taking initiative and putting yourself out there, finding if you're the writing club, maybe that works for you. Maybe it is like doing the morning announcements and whatnot. But I just feel like taking those actionable steps and like plugging yourself in is very.
And you know, I had mentioned in the beginning about my girl tribe and how I say find your tribe, and they are my tribe. But like news people are also my tribe. I mean, our newsroom is full of such characters. I always joke that it's like the island of misfit toys, but like in the best way. Like we're all have like these kind of funny nuances and different personalities, but I kind of love that controlled chaos.
Yeah.
And I thrive in that sort of environment.
Yeah.
You know, like I love it. So it's also important to know like what environment you thrive in. Some people prefer to kind of work on their own and kind of take their own space, and that's definitely not news. Like you are working with people, you are talking to people, and you're gonna deal with a lot of personalities, and you gotta figure out how to like navigate through that.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, you're talking about like your callings, and I'm not sure if you know, but I did hair for like 25 years.
Oh my gosh.
So now I'm retired. I mean, I keep my license going, but I created the Ladies of the Little Lighthouse, and we have this similarity where we rally women to do good in Miami.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on how we can keep this going in Miami to create more awareness?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I mean, Ladies Little Lighthouse is a perfect example of how you keep that going. And I think that that's so important too, because when regardless of what your job is, whether you have a high profile job or a job that's not, I think it is part of our social responsibility to give back, especially when you find yourself in a position that you're able to give back. And I love that there's organizations like Ladies of Little Lighthouse that's specific of women, and I think creating more organizations like that maybe could be a little bit more niche, like, okay, this organization is going to be focusing on, childhood cancer and doing research for that. Or, you know, I work a lot with WCA, which is Women's Cancer Association, and it's this wonderful group of women, and their purpose is like raising money and funds for cancer research and helping people who can't pay for their therapies and all of that. And I think just creating those groups is so important. And also just remembering that giving back is what it's all about, right? Like we all work so hard in our lives to get to the point where we are at a certain status, and now it's time. Okay, we're here, we've made it. Now it's time to like help other people make it and give that back.
Right.
But yeah, you know, and I think you make a good point specifically when we look at Miami, and I think Miami has a little bit of a bad rep. A lot of people think, you know, superficial, and everybody here is just trying to like show off and all of that. And look, there's an aspect to that in every city. We live in a huge metropolitan city. But I think that what's so great is when you kind of give people that like initiative to come out. And you do have to kind of entice them in the sense of like, we're gonna have these like really great events. And they're gonna be really social, and you're gonna meet people, and you're gonna be part of like the, you know, see and be seen.
Right.
But on the backside of that, it's yeah, you're doing that, but you're also giving back and helping out. You kind of have to like mirror that a little bit in Miami. And that's why like Hearts and Stars is like, I always say it's perfect because it's literally like, yeah, this is going to be great. It's going to be fun, and you're going to be seen and be seen. But guess what? We're doing like really good stuff here.
Right.
It's definitely a masterful technique.
It is.
And you're just spot on, because we had a Hearts and Stars gala, and it's just like this incredible party, and people love it. It's the who's who of Miami. And then we just wanted to expand upon the brand and give Hearts and Stars some depth and be able to impact. So we created Hearts and Stars podcast,
Which is great.
right? And we're bringing the community together, and you're just going to be transforming lives on this. I know it, just because of like, especially the young girls, you know, who want to, you know, follow in your footsteps, and we're navigating that pathway right here, you know, just like put yourself out there, join some clubs if there's opportunities. I think bottom line, as you said, follow your passion.
Follow your passion. And, you know, I think it's kind of like works out that we're here. And I know, you know, Gail was on the podcast recently, Boys and Girls Club, because one other big thing is mentorship in general. I feel like I had incredible people to look up to.
Yeah.
And I think that's from teachers, obviously my own home, but you know, my mom and dad, my grandparents, but also my teachers from school, my teachers in dance, or even like women who were in this business that when I started interning really like paved the way. And so I think the mentorship is so incredible. And even if you were someone who felt that you didn't have that growing up, be the change.
Yeah.
Do it now. Like mentor people, show them like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna guide you and I'm gonna help you. Because sometimes it's just, I always think about this because, you know, I hang out with a lot of my friends who have like little kids. And sometimes, you know, when the little kid's kind of behaving a little bad, they won't listen to mom or dad. But then the minute I say something like, hey, stop yelling, they suddenly like, oh my gosh. And there's something about someone outside of your family kind of guiding you that makes you like, oh wait, I gotta like listen to this person. You know how it always is when you're growing up, you don't really listen to mom and dad, but you're gonna listen to a mentor, and you're gonna listen to someone who you admire and you trust. So I think it's so important to have good mentors, of course, but now that we're at an age, like be the mentor, be the person that maybe you didn't have, or be the person you did have and like pay it forward now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we created Hearts and Stars workshop. I'm not sure if you know this.
Oh,
but that's for the students.
Ooh.
So we have two students, Atticus and Andy, right now. They're coming in from 3:30 to 4:30 today.
Love it.
And the workshop is right down the hall over there. We actually have a company called Mentally Organized to kind of like help put things together, because we needed it to be like a perfect setting conducive for these young minds. And we'll come in here today, and we're gonna start kind of putting together these like discussions about our incredible guests. So, believe it or not, they actually had some homework to do.
Oh, they
Jenise
did?
Fernandez.
Oh, oh, they had homework. That is so sweet.
One of the things was, well, number one, I just wanted to know on a personal basis, like, what were some of the most impactful stories that you've ever covered?
Ooh.
You know, the most significant that kind of like maybe transformed your career. And I'm just going to throw this out here. This is one of the students had uncovered, and this could or may not be, but did you jump out of an airplane?
I did.
That may have been the most scary, but
It was so much fun.
You're a daredevil.
It's,
I
kind of am. So, you know, what's been so great about this business is I've had I've gotten the opportunity to do like really fun stories. That was one of them. I also got to fly with the Air Force Thunderbirds and an F-16 plane,
Oh my God.
which was also incredible. I've trained with firefighters where I've gotten to learn what it's like to like dress up and like really go out there, which is so much fun. So I love that I have a career that like you have those fun moments. But to be quite honest with you, I know exactly a moment that I've had a lot of stories that I've done that have really affected me, and I think, you know, when I started off in this business, the hardest thing was having to talk to people on the worst day of their lives when you're talking about like a really, really horrible story, what, you know, maybe somebody lost somebody to murder or whatnot. That was something you really had to learn, and you know, I learned that it's okay to go home and cry about it. You know, you may have to be serious on air, and you may have to be professional, and it was okay to, oh my gosh, like I remember doing interviews and just hugging, you know, family members who just lost a loved one, and it's okay to do that. Like you could, and that was advice I got from one of my professors is you're human first. You are a human before you're a journalist. So don't forget that. Don't let this business harden you so much that you forget what it's like to actually feel for other people. But there was one moment that was extremely impactful for my career. In 2019, I wrote out Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas. And to make a long story short, this hurricane ended up being the strongest hurricane to ever make landfall in the Atlantic. And we were stuck in the Bahamas for 3 days. We couldn't get out because the whole island was pretty much destroyed. And it's a huge rescue effort. We can't kind of get live through our cameras, but we're able to talk through the phone. So we're doing like live reports through the phone, kind of describing what we're seeing, but we're unable to get these images out because we're stuck and there's no signal, so to speak. So finally we get rescued, which is a whole story. And we finally make it to Nassau, which is just south of Marsh Harbor. And we land in like the hangar. And when we walk into the hangar, our focus right now is it's 5:45. We have a 6 o'clock newscast. Like we're firing up like, you know, the live view, which is how we go live. And we got the camera and we're like running around. We also like, by the way, haven't showered in 3 days because there's been no running water. So I must have looked crazy. We looked crazy. But we're just like running there. We're getting everything up and we're not thinking. But, you know, my photographer's getting everything through and he's just feeding all the video that we've shot, feeding it. And I'm on the phone with my boss and he's like, oh my gosh, because he's like watching it as it comes into the feed room. So I do my live report and we're like on air for like 30 minutes. And then when I finish my report, I look over and I see everybody in this hangar, which by the way, it's not just reporters, but it's like Red Cross, it's Coast Guard. It's like all these organizations that are just trying to get there to get aid. They're all just watching on the TV, watching my report. And when I finished, they came up to me and they shook my hand. They said, thank you so much, because we now know what they need. Because you've been able to show what is happening on the island. And that was sort of such a moment for me of just realizing this is why I do what I do, right?
Yes.
This is why sometimes we put ourselves in harm's way. It's because we're showing the public what's happening in any capacity. And I'll never just forget that, because I just couldn't, I was kind of shell-shocked. I don't even remember what I said. I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, thank you. But it was just one of those moments that I was like, oh, this is it. This is like what we've worked for. And it's amazing when you're able to just put it out there and show people the need of, you know, what happened there.
Thank you so much for doing that.
You were such a daredevil. I mean, while everybody's like driving out of town to get away from the hurricane, you're going in.
We're driving in.
Well said, Mitz. I mean, like,
you have to be a little bit of like an adrenaline junkie.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So does something like that earn you one of your 6 Emmys that you
It
received?
was one of them.
That's
yes.
amazing.
It was one of them. Yeah. So that was probably the one I was most proud of.
Yeah.
Because it took so much to even just get on air. Like, you know, you're dealing with the technical side, but it was truly just like an unforgettable experience in more ways than one. And, you know, one thing, not to get into all of this, but there was also a lot of survivor's guilt too. Like, so many people lost their lives, but also people just lost everything. And the fact that I was able to just get on this, you know, helicopter and escape and come back home to my house, to my family, it took a minute. And, you know, and there was 100% therapy involved in that, which I very much encourage. Like, that is very necessary, you know, not just in my career, but in all kinds of careers, because you are going to have you're going to go through a lot of emotions through life, right? So it was a lot to kind of process that and come to terms with it.
I mean, you bring so much to the table that, like, you know, on first impression, you don't know, like, what you've been through, you know, but, and all of your experience. But, you know, I love even like having you at any of our programs, like birthday of service, you coming out. You
So
just
fun.
you bring this aura, or a children's Halloween party that you're going to be a part of.
Oh, I'm so excited. And Halloween's like the best, by the way.
Halloween
Like
is
the best, right? Side note, we love Halloween, so.
100%. It's gonna be amazing for these kids. A fun, safe trick or treating experience.
Oh my gosh.
So you go from, you know, doing something like, you know, covering, you know, a natural disaster to coming in and spreading love and joy to these kids. Why does that speak to you?
You know what? You have to fill your cup, right? You got to fill your cup with that love. And when you're around these kids or you're around any sort of charity, you just feel so happy. You feel so good. Like doing good makes you feel good. Like this is an actual recipe that works, guys. Doing good makes you feel good. So yes, it is so much about what you're doing for these kids and giving them the time and volunteering. And you know how it is when you're like a young kid, you love seeing the big kids. You get so excited. I remember being a kid and seeing like the big kids and like, oh my gosh, I want to be them.
Yeah.
So that experience in itself is great. And then obviously you're giving your time and your energy. But I mean, that's what it's really all about. Like that's what makes me feel good. Like when you're going home at night and you're going to bed, you want to feel good. And those are the things that make me feel good. When I know I'm like, okay, you know what? Been working a lot, been doing a lot. And yes, I do feel I serve the community in a way through my job.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I got to see the community
Yeah.
that I'm working for and that I'm representing.
And
Yeah.
you
And you do
do. You're so supportive in your whole, like, as I like to call, girl gang. You guys really are supportive. I can't even imagine what ungodly hour you wake up in the morning. But to like see you at the, you know, one of the ladies events was just so
Oh, thank
so
you.
grateful.
Oh my gosh, and I will support Little Lighthouse forever and ever. and you know what's, you mentioned the girl gang again, and that's another thing that I just love about these girls. Oh my gosh, such givers. I mean, charitable. I mean, everything they do. Like we are constantly talking about, you know, events that we're doing. And if I'm ever doing something or another girl is doing it, we're like, how can we support you? Do you need a donation? Do you want us to like give you a silent auction item? Like we're just constantly like, what can we do to support you and what this means to you? So that's another thing that's so great about this girl gang is that we're constantly like, you know, one of the girls has her own foundation that she started. Joy, she has a Joy Taylor Foundation.
Oh, yeah,
she's
that's
trying
right.
to she's trying to get that up and building.
Yeah.
It's really doing great work. And it's like we're so proud of her because we're like, this is amazing. Like you have a foundation now that you're like, and it's just it's so interesting too. And I'm sure they all have their reasons and stories for why like they've always wanted to give back and why they feel that's so important.
Yeah.
But I love just being around people like that. Because then you also step up your game.
Totally.
You know, like you hear stuff like that, you're like, oh wait a minute.
Yeah.
I gotta like step it up now because I'm doing this, but I could be doing more.
Totally.
In a good way. Like
Yeah.
they support you in that good way.
Yeah.
Make you want to be better.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we've decided we're going to create Anchor Woman, the movie.
We're doing Anchor Woman the movie. It's gonna be great.
It's
It's gonna be a lot of love and fun, but it'll be great. It'll kind of be like Barbie. Like, look, Barbie worked, right? There was a lot of support there.
There was. You guys, I don't even know how you organize yourselves because
I don't know either.
I mean,
I'm the planner of the group.
you
Yes,
are.
I'm the
And
planner. I
you
do the
have
itineraries.
Talked about your itinerary.
Wow.
They're
how
very
you
detailed.
are able to coordinate a green outfit with the green of the beach.
It's a lot of
club
research done.
chairs. Yep.
This is when the journalist comes in, right? Like if I'm going to a place, I'm researching it, I'm learning everything. I'm learning like how far the restaurant is from the hotel, how much time do we need to get ready.
Yeah.
That's very much the journalist in me that just feels like I need to know everything and like backup plan after backup plan after backup plan.
And you have a great sense of style. I mean, can we
you.
talk about that?
You are
Wow,
so
you
sweet.
always have it so put together.
were so
I
sweet.
commented
Thank
on
you.
it at the event we did for Ladies of Little Lighthouse because I needed to know. Number one, in full disclosure, we did message each other and I knew what you were going to be wearing.
Doing the white and the black,
and
yeah.
white tweed, and I'm wearing all black. Missy's wearing all white with a little shade of pink. But you know, I just love it, and I love talking about this too because I think, and I want to hear your perspective, how necessary it is. Like, you know how to enjoy yourself. You're traveling.
gosh, you have to.
It's self-love. You're dressed to the nines, right? I uncovered you don't have a stylist.
I
and This is
don't.
all like, you know,
Just kind of me.
self-driven.
Yeah. You know what's so great about it though, and I think this is like also a great kind of lesson for like young girls as well. I always just kind of wore what I liked, but what made me feel like really good. And so it wasn't so much about following a trend or wanting to do something that everybody else was doing. It was more about, okay, I really like this color or I really like this dress. And I think when you get to like dress up. I always say I'm dressing up. You get to kind of sometimes feel like you're a certain character. So sometimes when I'm like on vacation, I'm like, okay, I want to kind of channel. I was in Italy recently, Sophia Loren, right? And you have like the scarf, and you want to channel that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think the most important lesson is like, where it makes you feel great, and if people don't like it, who cares?
Who cares?
Do you feel great? You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like, do
exactly.
it. Like, and I'm so supportive too. Like, one thing I love about Miami is everybody always dresses up. You know how when you like go to like dinners and stuff, like everyone's always dressed up. Like in other cities, they're so like casual, which is fine. But I love that everybody dresses up. And I'll like just look and I'll just like truly admire other women and be like, I love this. Look at them. Like they're coming in,
Yeah.
they're wearing what they want to wear, they're loving it, they're feeling good.
Yeah.
And that's like the advice I give. Just
Yeah.
like do what makes you feel good. Like who cares about trends? If you want to wear this or that,
Yeah. And tell them you look great.
oh
I
oh
love
my
to
God,
do-
yes.
Missy's like,
Let's.
I can learn a lot.
I do that. I will stop girls walking and just
Me
say, I just
too.
want you to know your outfit. Gorgeous.
Same.
Like, give them love. Like, let
Yeah.
them know.
Yeah.
I love
And the
that.
power of a smile too. Missy, I'll be like, did you know them? They just smiled back at me. You know, it's like,
Because you make them feel so good and comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And you
I
never
love
know
that
who's day.
connection, you know?
Yeah, and you never know who's, like, this is actually such a funny story. I can remember this one time I was in Nashville, and this girl was like in the bathroom. She had these like really cool like gold leather pants on. And I was just like, you have really cool pants.
Yeah.
And then what ended up happening is like we ended up hanging out with them like the whole night. Like, it was a great group of girls. She ended up being a sports reporter. Like, what are the odds?
Wow.
So she was also on air, and like we ended up hanging out with them, and they're awesome, and we like still keep in touch on like Instagram,
Right.
and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. But you know, it was just something as simple as complimenting her pants in the bathroom.
Right.
I would actually say the odds are fairly good.
Yeah.
With the way that you build your network of friends.
It's great. I love
I
it.
am not surprised.
And I love friends. Like, I will never not have enough friends. Like, I'm not somebody who's closed off. Like, you're a good person, come on in. Come on down.
Yeah.
Come join the group. Let's get to know each other, and like, you know, just including people. Be inclusive.
Yeah.
It's important.
I agree. You're a superstar in my book.
Oh, thank you.
And even just like going over everything today, I love these opportunities because I learn so much too.
Oh.
And I know like following your passion is something that, you know, you're really putting forth. And I believe like it's like find out, you know, what you love and see if you can make it work. So with, you know, you being 6-time Emmy Award winning news anchor, which I love to say, that's a huge accomplishment. You have a passion for dance.
I
Okay,
do.
maybe that's off the books right now. You have a passion for travel and for fashion.
Yeah.
So, like, is there anything that you are kind of envisioning? What are next steps for you, Jenise Fernandez, like across the board? And am I planting any seeds, or am I on the right path at all with?
You know, the one thing I really want to do, and this really just takes me kind of slowing down a little bit. I don't know if you know this, but like I'm an avid reader. I love to read. I read a new book. I try to read a new book every month. Sometimes I read more than one a month, but I just give myself that goal of like, let's read. I was that kid like during Scholastic School Fairs. I'm like, Goosebumps and all of that. I would love to write a book one day.
Oh,
Yeah.
you should.
I would love to. Like, and then not even just a book about maybe my experience, but also like I have like kind of good ideas for some fictional stories too. Like just like ideas I get in my head of like, that would be a good story. That would be a fun little thing to like write about. So I would love to write a book one day. That would be great.
Have you cracked it open yet? Have you started anything?
I've like cracked some things open in terms of like my own life, like little just kind of tidbits I put in. But the fictional side I have not, which is funny because now that we're talking, when I was younger, I used to always write like little books, like little stories, right? I used to always do that, and I would go to the magazines and like cut out who I think would be like the perfect actress to star in this like show that I had in my head and like paste it on like, a little paper I had. So I've always just been, and I journal every day. I am like very much into like, you know, the written word and like reading and all of that. I'm definitely on the artistic side.
Yeah.
The math and science, sadly, I'm not good at. But other people who are good at it, I love it. I'm so fascinated by it. Like, you know, lifelong learner here, but the artistic side is
It's
like
more fun.
Yeah, that's where
I was
that's
gonna
where
say
I
it.
am for sure.
And I always say Missy crushes books.
Oh.
It is like I love it. It really kind of like I watch her and I'm like so impressed. And she reads a lot of spiritual books too.
Oh, I love that.
And helps me be spiritually fit. Do you do anything like that? Do you anything that you do that helps you, maintain balance in your life?
Balance is so important. I am constantly working on being good at meditating. I'm not good at it, but we're gonna keep trying.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
just my goal.
Amen.
It's like it's a constant thing that we try. Working out every morning.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be a crazy workout. I have a Peloton at home, so it's great. But just like getting on the bike or doing one of their boot camps. And sometimes it's not even just about, I'm trying to stay in shape. And of course, the health aspect is important. It sets my mind right for the day.
Right.
Agreed.
Gives me the energy, gives me that good mindset. And honestly, like a really big way that I stay grounded is when I come home, I need some quiet. And I was kind of telling you like how I light my candles and I kind of just like sit there. And I just kind of reflect and I think, not even necessarily on my phone. Putting your phone down for an hour, highly recommended. I put my phone down for an hour every day.
That's
And
so
the reason
true.
I do it was because I go to my parents' house a lot for dinner. And there was one time that my dad made a comment. He's like, "You're always on your phone." And I'm like, look at me here with like my awesome parents who just
Yeah.
want to talk and spend time with me and I'm on my phone. So I said, you know what? An hour every day, just for dinner. Just an hour every day. No phone.
Yeah.
Helps
And
so
are you
much.
consistent with that?
I'm not consistent with it. But it's a work in progress, like, because
Right.
sometimes you start to get into like these really good conversations, right? Like, you're like, I don't want
Right.
to put it down, but,
Right.
just put it down. Do not disturb.
Right.
Everybody will be fine for an hour.
Yeah.
That's
We
very
hope.
true.
Mine is I'll always miss out on like the perfect picture if I put my phone away just to spend time with the kids. I'm like, oh man, I missed it.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's so hard too, right? Because you're also working, you're also doing things, you're keeping in touch with people, and then like, you got these little ones.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll tell us, put your phones down.
Oh, good for them. I love that. Put your phone down.
But we strive for perfection.
We do. We're always
our best.
striving,
We're all
right?
doing our best.
We're all just trying to get to like our higher selves and our best selves, however
Exactly.
that looks.
I'm a big fan of consistency, and I just feel like you have your schedule. You are just like, boom, boom, boom. What are your thoughts on being consistent? How does it play a part in your life? Because even with this podcast, we're going to air like every 2 weeks. There's a part of me right now, I'm like, but we have some more podcasts and we can do it weekly.
We could do this way. We could do that way.
Let me just take a step back. But, with that said, also from experience, I've learned to kind of like be a little bit more patient and let things work their
yes.
course.
Patience is a virtue that I have not mastered. I will say that
That's
for
a
sure.
hard one.
It's the hardest one. But that saying that says you ask for patience and God gives you a long line at the bank. It's like that kind of thing about if you want to practice it, you got to put it in. Consistency is so important. I'm so big on routine and schedules. I do the itineraries for trips. Like, I love a good routine. It helps me kind of stay on track. I have to-do list every week that I check off. Like, I'll write at the beginning of the week, what do I have to do this week? And you feel so great at the end of the week when you've like checked everything off. You're like, I did it. But with that being said, it's also important to have a little spontaneity. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to be flexible.
Right.
Yeah.
And allowing sometimes your schedule will get uprooted. That's okay.
Right.
That's okay. So you have to and I think this is very, very common for my generation and just like anybody for different reasons. I can be a very anxious person. And kind of the root of anxiety is fear of the future and
Right.
feel like you don't have control of it.
Yeah.
So being consistent kind of helps you give that sense of control of like, well, I am in control of my future and I could do this and these are the things I can do and put to practice every day that will help me get to where I want to get. So that kind of helps also with the anxiety that comes in. We've all experienced it.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, planning that will alleviate that
Yes.
to some degree, right?
Yeah, it does.
I was just in a meditation class, coincidentally, and it was exactly that anxiety about the future, or like when you find yourself being
Oh,
depressed,
yeah.
it's about the past. So, just
Staying in it.
staying in it.
Right.
I feel like he's probably so good at meditation. Is he or no?
I'm the one that made him go to that.
Oh, you were the
meditation.
See, now it's like,
Like, go.
go meditate.
It was a sound bowl at the
Ooh,
Faina
I've heard
Spa
those are
in the
amazing.
hammam. And I'm like,
Oh.
and he's like, I don't
Well,
know.
I'm an artsy person too, and I love being creative, so I just have like so many ideas. So,
It's hard to stay still.
but I
Yeah.
know, and like for for the kids too, staying still obviously is a big challenge. But I know that if I'm still and just thinking about myself and concentrating, that it'll be immeasurable, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
like what it could do for me.
Yeah.
And the productivity. But it's all about like doing it, right?
Yeah. Like
Taking
connect
a
with
stance.
yourself. Like when you take the time to just really be present and connect with yourself,
Oh,
makes a world
yeah.
of difference.
It really, really does. And you know what? It's so great because the more time you spent getting to know yourself, the more you learn about yourself. Like sometimes there are things you're like, oh, I didn't know this about me, or I didn't know that, or wow, like.
Right.
And you know, as I've gotten older, I've learned so much about setting boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big people pleaser,
That's
so
a big
learning to say no. Whew,
Yeah.
I still have trouble saying no.
Yeah.
You know, like you're
Yeah.
so like, oh well.
I
But like
know.
those things too, it's when you really just kind of like just sit with yourself that you start to like recognize like, okay, yes, we got to put more boundaries. We got to like people please a little less. We got to like learn how to relax. You know, you just kind of figure those things out. But if you're always on the go and you don't take those pauses, you don't realize
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Jenise, you are such a big role model.
Oh, thank you.
Especially to young women. What is some advice that you would give them if they wanted to be in the media industry?
Oh my gosh, so much, so much. You know, the biggest thing I will tell them is, you know, I always say like, stay hungry. One of my favorite kind of sayings, if you will, is be so good they can't ignore you. Like, let your work speak for itself. You don't have to like always be fighting or asking for things. If you just do good work, people are going to notice it. And I think also for women who specifically who want to get into this industry, do realize that it's a tough business. You know, it's not a warm and fuzzy business. You're not going to have a boss who's telling you every day that you're wonderful. You're not going to have your hand held, and that's a little hard, right? Words of affirmation, by the way, so like that took some getting used to. Like, oh, I'm not going to get praised all the time. Oh, okay, great. So I think that's so important to realize, like, this is not a warm and fuzzy business, so don't expect it to be. Be tough, but don't be so tough that you forget to be, as I mentioned before, be human. Always do that. And I think women bring such a great aspect to news because we do tend to feel more than men. And that's not, you know, and that's not a criticism. It's just that I think that women bring such this wonderful talent that we can be emotional but still kind of do a story, but you're going to feel that love in the story. You're going to feel it with the way you tell the story. And one of the best, it's kind of funny advice, but one advice I got from one of my mentors was, any story you're doing, sometimes you want the really big story. Sometimes you're going to get the really small one. But just know that that small one means something to someone somewhere, so treat it like the big story. Don't just kind of go through it. You know, make it like, you know, the most important story you've ever told, because to someone out there, what you're doing means so much to them.
Yeah.
So that's also really important to remember, because we're all like, look, we're all like very type A competitors, and we want to be like the lead story of the day, and da-da-da-da. And sometimes you're like doing a story at the zoo, and you're like, oh my gosh, really? I could have been doing this, but you're like, you know what? That matters.
And it matters to somebody.
It matters
yeah.
even if it's just one person. You got to just remember that. Like, don't ever just throw it away. Like,
I love
put
that.
it in every day. Yeah.
On your IG bio, it says passionately smashing every expectation.
So you know where that's from?
What?
Have you ever seen the musical Hamilton?
Yes.
It's one of the, he says it in one of his songs.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
And I like, funny enough, like this musical, like I love musicals too, by the way. But that musical, you learn so much about life if you like really listen to the lyrics. And that's just like one of those lyrics that I was just like, oh, I love this.
Yeah.
But he even has a line in one of his, one of the songs that they say, why do you write like you're running out of time? And I think that's such a good example of how we're all just go, go, go.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, relax. There's like a lot. There's a lot to like look forward to. You stop and smell the roses, right?
Yeah.
But no, so that's a line from Hamilton. I just love it because it's true. Like, just be passionate about it and smash it. And I'm telling you, I love a good underdog story. I love when people have like very low expectations of me. Like, that's where I'm like, oh, love it.
Yeah.
Please doubt me. Please. I can't wait to show you how wrong you are. Like, it's just like, it gives me fire, you know?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
And that's-
non-believers.
and that's a great thing too, because look, in your life, you could be, whether you decide to be a journalist or whatever it is, there's going to be people who may doubt you, and sometimes that negativity can be contagious and it starts to bring you down. But no, bottle that negativity and be like, thank you so much for that negativity. Like, I'm using that as motivation now to do even better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Success
make it a
is
positive.
the best revenge.
Success. That's what my mom always says. Success is the best revenge. She really always says that. Always. Yeah. I love that.
You keep it going. just keep on rocking. We love your friendship, your partnership.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy. I love it.
You're just such a great reflection on the Little Lighthouse Foundation and all of Miami and everything that you do in the community. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Look, Miami's home. and this is where I want to be. So you know what? We want to make this like the best home for everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. You know, as you said before, there's a lot to Miami,
a lot.
the good and the bad, but as long as we keep promoting that goodness, we'll stay on course.
Yes.
And then, so we're going to do a final thing here, the donate
Oh,
or dare
yes.
wheel.
I'm scared because I don't know what the dare is going to consist of. So we're going to find out. Okay, so I
Here
just
we
go up
go.
now?
Go.
Okay,
It's all
this is
you.
it. It's happening. All right. I've never done one of these, by the way.
This could be your new thing.
Listen. Oh, the spin. I'm like, what is this? This anticipation.
I know, right?
Oh!
We got to donate.
Yay!
Thank you so much for your donation. We'll discuss that
Yes,
offline.
please. You know where to find me. Send me the bill.
But you know, everything that we do, Little Lighthouse Foundation, it's going to go towards a specialty program. We'll let you know if it's Halloween party, holiday toy distribution. But getting these kids out there and providing all these experiences for them, that's what
What's
you're
all
going to be
about.
contributing to.
Love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Hearts and Stars podcast. You can follow us on Hearts and Stars podcast or visit us at heartsandstars.com.